Well, just when you thought the world couldn't get any stupider and social media any more of a sewer, along comes news that startled even cynical old me. You see, there's a new trend that is going viral on TikTok. You know, TikTok. That's the Chinese Communist Party-controlled social media app that seems to be designed to rot the brains of its mostly young users and hooks kids into going down a rabbit hole that starts with cat videos and makeup tips and ends up with them not knowing whether they're a boy or a girl and making Queers for Palestine banners while calling for world revolution. Have you got the sense that I don't like this app very much? Well, good. And after I show you this, guess what? I don't think you will either. You see, the new big thing on TikTok is for users to go and read Osama Bin Laden's Letter to America, which is a self-justifying piece of jihadist trash with just enough midwit high school level anti-Americanism thrown in to get a certain sort of idiot saying, "Hey man, kinda makes you think." Now, we'll look at the letter and its contents in just a moment, but first, a bit of a sample of the genre, which has been highlighted by excellent social media accounts like Libs of TikTok.
It is just insane because this letter is so well written and so reasonably structured in an argument. Like, you got to present your findings, you got to state your cause, all that. Like, everything he said was valid.
This morning I read Letter to America, which is Osama Bin Laden's letter to America explaining why he attacked Americans. And I am ashamed to say that I not only have never read this letter, but I didn't even know this letter existed. It's wild, and everyone should read it. If you haven't read it yet, read it.
I need everyone to stop what they're doing right now and go read. It's literally 2 pages. Go read A Letter to America. And please come back here and just let me know what you think, because I feel like I'm going through like an existential crisis right now, and a lot of people are. So I just need someone else to be feeling this too.
I need you to stop what you're doing and go read A Letter to America. It is literally the craziest thing I've read in a while. And while I can't say that I'm that surprised, I am pretty shocked. So go read it and tell me what you think, because I really also need to talk to other people about this. And actually, before you even read the letter, I did want to mention, in reading the letter, I could only think of this tweet that I saw the other day. Under settler colonialism, any kind of resistance is branded as terrorist because the only acceptable violence is violence by the occupier.
So this is f***ing insane. I just read Osama Bin Laden's Letter to America, which I will be going through right here, but it's actually so mind to me that terrorism has been sold as this idea to the American people, and honestly just so many Western inhabitants within certain nations. It becomes apparent to me that the actions of 9/11 and those acts committed against the USA and its people were all just the buildup of our government failing other nations.
My voice just wants to leave you.
Welcome to the future, everybody, in which dead-eyed moral relativists who were brought up to hate their country by a rancid popular culture and an even worse school system come out and praise Osama Bin Laden and justify the 9/11 terror attacks. So what on earth are these useful idiots praising? That's Lenin's phrase, obviously, and it applies here. Well, guess what? I've dug up a copy of Osama's Letter to America and read it, as they suggested. It was released in 2002, a year after the 9/11 attacks, and I read it and I wondered, what the hell are all these kids so enthusiastic about? Maybe it was Osama's call for the West to embrace Islamic morality. Because in the letter, Osama bin Laden writes, quote, "We call you to be a people of manners, principles, honor, and purity, to reject the immoral acts of fornication and homosexuality," unquote. Yeah, boy, I bet those kids are all behind that. Or maybe it was the call to stop lending money with interest, i.e. usury. because Osama also wrote, "You are the nation that permits usury, which has been forbidden by all the religions, yet you build your economy and investments on usury," unquote. Now, I don't think that's the case, that they'd be endorsing that, because I doubt any of those idiots we saw a moment ago paid cash for their facial piercings or tattoos. So what about the call to take women out of the workplace and turn them into domestic servants and baby-making machines hidden behind the walls of the family compound? Here Osama tells his readers, quote, "You are a nation that exploits women like consumer products or advertising tools, calling upon customers to purchase them. You use women to serve passengers, visitors, and strangers to increase your profit margins," unquote. So very feminist. Of course, remember, these were the same sorts of kids who last year were making TikToks slamming J.K. Rowling for defending women. Well, what are you going to do? Hang on, sorry. Went a little further, though, in the letter. I think I found it. It's the bit where Osama goes all woke and bangs on about white privilege, like, well, some overprivileged suburban TikTok kiddies do, writing, quote, "The freedom and democracy that you call to is for yourselves and for the white race only," unquote. The letter goes on, and of course, there's plenty of kvetching about Israel, with him saying the creation and continuation of Israel is one of the greatest crimes, and you are the leaders of its criminals. And of course, there is no need to explain and prove the degree of American support for Israel. The creation of Israel is a crime which must be erased, unquote. Well, that's really starting to get a bit on trend with some of these guys, but I swear, hearing these Jew-hating kidlets discover Osama Bin Laden is like when a 12-year-old goes, "Hey, Dad, have you ever heard about this really cool band, the Rolling Stones?" And did you know also that Osama Bin Laden may have killed 3,000 people, but he was also, according to the letter, an environmentalist? Yep, in the letter he wrote, quote, "You refuse to sign the Kyoto Agreement so that you can secure the profit of your greedy companies and industries," unquote. Now, he went on. He also called AIDS a satanic American invention, but what's a few conspiracy theories between friends? The point is, all of these TikTokers seek to essentially justify terrorism against the West and Israel through a very fashionable academic lens of decolonization and resistance. Now, here's what gets even more interesting. One, it is very likely that Osama bin Laden didn't write the letter himself, or at least that he had a lot of help from somebody called Adam Gadon, who was a California hippie who later converted to Islam and eventually hooked up with Al-Qaeda to become one of its chief spokesmen. On the way, he spent his time in the California school system and absorbed a ton of Howard Zinn and Noam Chomsky and other leftist academics whose work essentially created the foundation for the modern leftist academy. And here's the second bit. While TikTok has, since these TikToks came out, moved to, they say, ban such videos, sure, I believe you, millions wouldn't, the fact is that there have long been concerns that the TikTok app, which, although owned by China, is not allowed to be used by kids in China, is being used here as a deliberate tool to suck in kids in the West, who by one estimate are on the app for as much as 91 minutes a day on average, and feed them endless scrolling content about everything from gender dysphoria to the evils of America. Now, the Australian government and many others have already banned TikTok from official government phones, but for whatever reason, I don't know, they've declined to ban the app from spying on and polluting the feeds of everyone else. Here's where I say, parents and grandparents who are watching, you might need to step in on this, lest you spend Christmas dinner hearing about the joys of jihad and the evils of the West.